Welcome to the Giving Nook, where nonprofit leaders, fundraisers, foundations, and philanthropists come to talk all things giving and impact.
We're your guest hosts. I'm Katie Lord.
And I'm Chris Stibbs.
Your nonprofit powerhouses, fundraising strategists, and your go-to guides for tips, tricks, and real talk about what it actually takes to create meaningful change in the sector.
Between the two of us, we've worked across every corner of the sector, from throwing top-notch events to building donor relationships that last. And now we're pulling back the curtain to share what we've learned.
Whether you're in the fundraising trenches, leading a nonprofit, or just curious about how to give more intentionally, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, listeners. Okay, today we are going to bring what I think is a very important post-COVID topic to the forefront of fundraising, and that is what I call the rise of the Desk Fundraiser.
I love this phrase so
What do you
much.
think about this, Chris?
I've been really excited to talk about this.
So first, I'd like for us to just define what a desk fundraiser is. So a desk fundraiser is somebody who wants to stay behind their desk. They are very into all digital tools, wanting to reach out to their donors in kind of what I would consider almost third-party ways instead of directly having those one-on-one conversations, especially in person. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. In fact, was just using that phrase the other day with someone, and I coined it to Katie Lord. So you are famous now. No, I totally agree. I feel like I'm having conversations with fundraising friends all the time where they're talking about not being able to get out and meet with more donors because they're stuck behind their desk in meetings, or, they're overseeing staff and not able to really take the time to meet with donors. I also feel like there's a lot of people who are focused on the mass email campaign, and if we throw it out there, people will just naturally read it and become a $10,000 sponsor. And that's not quite how it works, Katie.
No, I think there's still this myth of we're gonna go viral. The ice bucket challenge is gonna happen to us again. And that's just not repeatable, especially post-COVID. But I think you made a really good point, Chris, when you said that, yes, we all have different hats that we wear and we have different responsibilities, such as staff or staff meetings that we have to go to. But I also think a little bit of it is maybe some social anxiety or kind of losing that personal touch for 2 years where we were all kind of behind the desk, where it's gotten harder to get out from behind the desk and want to go meet those donors. I'm finding that more and more people are asking me if I want to have a Zoom meeting, and I'm saying, no, I'd rather take you to coffee.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, one of the things we've really been focusing on at work is KPIs and how are we putting these key performance indicators in place to make sure we're actually doing what we need to do to raise the funds that we need to raise. And it's interesting how many nonprofits I talk to where they have no KPIs in place in regards to this. How many meetings I want to have, how many asks I want to make. It's amazing how many fundraisers I talk to where they have no key performance indicators in place. They're not talking about how many meetings they're trying to take a month and how many donors they're making contact with and how many people they're calling to thank in a month. And I feel like not having those goals and metrics, because we're almost kind of afraid sometimes. If I put a goal in place or a metric in place and I just get nowhere close to that, then I failed at fundraising.
Are you talking about the fear of fundraising failure, my friend?
Right.
Oh my gosh. Did you like that alliteration?
I did love it.
It was so great. I think you're spot on, Chris. I think KPIs, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know anything, honestly. You need to be able to see where you're at, benchmark, and that's how you can pivot and make those adjustments that you need to make to try to get those results that you're looking for and basically almost work backwards. But what I'm really finding too is I will tell you, I am afraid of AI, okay? I am the fundraiser that doesn't use AI because I'm pretty sure that the robots are taking over. I don't think they're going to take my job. I just think they're going to take over, right? And I do think a lot of people are leaning on digital campaigns post-COVID and using AI, not just as a tool, but almost as a replacement. And I truly believe that you can't replace fabulous fundraisers, right? Because fabulous fundraisers make human connections. They personalize the relationship. They tell great stories. And I think that it's easy to say no to a campaign because I don't know about you, my inbox is a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And so to me, it's easier to say no to that than when you're sitting across from me, Chris, because I don't want to say no to you.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, how many emails do we delete a day that are sales or fundraising and we don't even open them?
I know. I think I saw that open rates for nonprofits have gone down post-COVID for the inbox. And I saw that we still have really high open rates, but they're still at like 25%. And that's not click-through or taking action. That's just being opened. But that's still missing a huge part of the audience, whereas it's easy for me to lose attention, but when you ask for my attention, I almost feel like intrigued more as a donor or as somebody who's in philanthropy, because it's like, okay, this is important enough for you to want to meet me now because you have 1,000 other tools that you could use.
Well, I really feel like, they talk all the time about diversifying your income streams, but you have to diversify your communication streams. Like, because one donor enjoys this email doesn't mean this other donor will even open it. And how are we having in-person touch points? How are we making phone calls? How are we communicating via email? What donors can you text with? Finding what works with your constituents and implementing it.
Well, and there is that saying, and I still just go back to it over and over again, that people give to people. Yeah. They don't just give to pretty pictures and good campaigns. They give just as much to the person telling the story because of that relationship than they are to just the cause. Like, there is something about that in fundraising that I think is an elephant we don't want to talk about, is people give to you, Chris, because gosh darn it, they like you, but they also like the cause and how you approach them. So when you're thinking about that, like, what is one of your tips or takeaways? Because I mean, boy, I see you all over town taking pictures of coffee and doing all these great things. So how are you getting people to meet you? And what are you doing that you think gets the yes to that meeting?
One of the things I've really worked on is trying to be my authentic self in the conversation. I just am not a all period. Like, I have to use exclamation points and I have to sometimes capitalize letters, and I have to be myself in the conversation. And I really feel like when I present my authentic self forward facing, it gets a good response. And I remember I was talking with a funder, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was like, I feel like I just enjoy that you always have energy when we talk. And I was like, it's probably the 16-ounce sugar-free Red Bull I had this morning, but thank you so much. I try to have the energy. And so I think being your authentic self out there, I also think we sometimes think, I didn't get that one response from them, and so I've got to move on because they're not interested in me. And that's just not the case. What doesn't research show, sometimes it takes 7 to 8 touch points before you actually get the meeting or get the gift. And we need to be a little more persistent. Not annoying, but we need to be persistent. And I think also one of the things I see a lot is people are not using their CRM to create activities and to set reminders. If I relied just on my memory to reach out to the donors I need to, we would have no money, at least from my portfolio. And so creating those activities and those steps, and almost I try and create almost a year's worth of touch points for that donor and make sure that I'm sticking to it.
One of my favorite phrases is plan your work and work your plan. And this goes back to one of my favorite topics, which we're not going to totally go to today, but it's having a development plan. You really should have a development plan that tells you what you should be doing for different campaigns. And I think mostly those have kind of a little bit gone by the wayside lately. After COVID, I'm seeing it's my development plan's up here. Well, you made a really good point, Chris. We have all of these tools. So technology shouldn't be a crutch, but we have all of these tools to set reminders. Also, I really try to make sure that I ask a donor, how do you want me to communicate with you? And give them what they want. I am pretty, like, if you call me on the phone, I'm like, hello, why are you calling me? Right? Because I'm a millennial, but I'll text people all day
Yeah.
or email, or, if you can even text me, hey, can you call me real quick? That's how you and I communicate sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think you really need to be intentional about asking your donor, how do they want to be communicated with? And what I try to do too is set up that follow-up before I even leave that meeting.
Yeah.
Hey, great, so much. Here's what I'm going to do, and repeat that back to the donor based on what we've been talking about today. Is there anything I missed, or can I follow up with you in X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
or invite you to this event, or whatever that next step is. And so that I'm not relying on going back to my desk and sitting there and writing you and trying to put all of this information in, instead of really going back and putting my plan into action and getting back out from behind the desk. I can sit there for follow-up forever, right? Like, I can make follow-up as long as I want it to be for my list of donors, but that's not how the relationship moves forward. It's going out and meeting them where they're at.
Exactly. So what are some takeaways that you think people can utilize and implement, like tomorrow or next week?
So I say block your time. You really need to block your desk time. And it really, in my opinion, should not be more than 1 day a week that you are sitting behind your desk getting your desk work done. Other than that, you need to be having, I try to do at least 5 to 7 in-person meetings a week, with maybe 2 to 3 meetings via Zoom. And that's sometimes because my donors just aren't able to meet me. They might be snowbirds. They might be physically sick or unable to meet me out in public. But I really try to block that time. And there's somebody in Kansas City who wrote a great book called Coffee, Lunch, Coffee. And I think that that is a rule to live by. We should be out and about, not behind our desk, not behind our computers, because I think it's a crutch and it's false communication.
I like that. I like that. I would say my tip would pull up an Excel document, start creating your KPIs. I mean, make it really simple. I want to have X amount of meetings this month with donors in person or virtual, and I want to make this many phone calls, emails, or text message stewardship points, and just start from there. I mean, just start recording this data. And honestly, it's a great tool then when you're taking it to your team and your boss to be like, here's actually how many donors we met with this month and how many times we called to thank a donor.
So one of the things I remember when I first started out fundraising, and I try to say as well to my staff, is, if you're behind the desk, you're not making money as a rule. That was something my first boss, Crystal, instilled in me, and I truly believe that. How do you motivate sometimes maybe staff that likes and is feeling comfortable behind the desk? What are you saying, Chris?
I think in those cases, like bringing those individuals out to donor meetings with you, sometimes it's just, especially for newer fundraisers, like, I don't know where to begin. And so it's like, hey, I'm going to bring you to this donor meeting with me. I think you can learn a lot from it. I want you to meet this donor and show them kind of the ropes of how you handle that donor meeting. Sometimes it's purely, I just don't know where to start with this. And then also, I try to make it a little bit easier. Like, sometimes I will send to my development coordinator, like, I want you to talk to these 5 people, reach out, schedule a meeting. And, that's really important to create those connections. And, that's how I try to motivate them and make it easier for them.
So just to kind of reiterate, we both think that desk fundraising is not the way that fundraising should continue to go post-COVID. We need to get out from behind those desks, reach out, set those meetings, figure out your favorite places, I would say, and become a regular at those. But really, set that 5 to 7 meetings, follow up with your KPIs, like you said, and maybe bring some of those staff members with you that might feel uncomfortable, might be our introverts, or just might not have that experience.
Well, and create accountability within your department together. Like, our fundraising team comes together and we look at these KPIs and we look at where we're at and how we can help each other achieve our goals as a team. And that accountability keeps you focused.
I love that. That's a really great kind of nugget to end on, I think, is really it is about accountability, and fundraising is a team sport. No matter what anyone says, fundraising truly is a team sport. And by opening up that line of communication and creating that accountability, I think we can really start to pull people out from behind the desk.
Love it. Pick up the phone and call your donor.
Head to your favorite coffee shop. Find your space, people.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Giving Nook. I hope today's conversation gave you something, whether it's a fresh idea, a new perspective, or just a little more confidence in your fundraising journey. If you're loving what we're giving, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you're feeling generous, a quick review helps more people like you find us. Want to keep the conversation going? Connect with me on LinkedIn or visit thephilanthropyplace.com, where I share fresh fundraising insights every other week. Here's to fundraising that feels good, works smarter, and changes lives. See you next time in the Giving Nook.